friends! So today we are going to be watching a Korean drama. Honestly, I have a probably big love of Asian dramas that might be born onto addiction, but it's also really cool to get to watch shows and movies in different cultures because, well, there's definitely things that get dramatized, and I definitely know that because, you know, watching American shows, there are definitely aspects that are heavily dramatized, but you still get to get cool exposure to a different culture and maybe different aspects. So the show we're watching today is Boys Over Flowers!
된 이래 재계순이 부동의 1위 자리를 지키며 성장 또 성장하여 마침내 세계적인 수준으로 우뚝 선 기업이 있었으니 그 이름 신화. 대한민국.
We love a monopoly! So the drama starts off by introducing you to the school that was built by the biggest, richest company in Korea, and it sounds like this company is probably pretty affordable against other companies in the international market. And the president decides, I want to build a school for my grandchildren, and now the school is where the richest of the rich go, the top 1% of the top 1% of society. So the school's gonna have a bunch of rich kids with nothing better to do. Wait, am I just gonna be watching a live action version of Oran High School Host Club? Kiss, kiss. And then after learning about how rich the school is, we get to find out about the local pirate gang that I guess frequents the school. Okay. Starting to think that red mark doesn't mean piracy so much as it is a hit out on a person. And so the school has the richest of the rich in it, so I'm wondering if that person's like really poor, or did they just like go to a house party and spill caviar on like a 50 grand rug at like one of the rich kids' schools. Like, I'm sure when we find out what this is, that's just gonna be like a super petty thing, because like what legitimate problems do you have like when you're that wealthy in this drama? And then we cut to happy biking.
잔디 세탁에서 배달 왔는데요.
Okay, is that like normal to get your dry cleaning delivered to school, or is that just a rich person thing? Because like in America, you don't get dry cleaning straight to school. Like most people get delivered to their houses, and that's like an extra fee, so most people just like drop it off at the dry cleaners and pick it up. So is delivery like a common thing in Korea, and then like is this like an extra step of like these people are so rich that they can have it delivered to them during school hours? Whoa! Oh! Okay, they were just beating him up. Yeah, I thought they were doing something else. I thought they were fucking. And then back to the happy biking again. And back to the person trying not to get beat to death. Are they gonna beat this guy to death? Back to the happy biking! Being beaten to death, we don't know her. Rich people with nothing to do. Oh, back to the rich people, bullies. Oh god, they got sticks. So, this really, I kind of wish I'd read Lord of the Flies because I feel like I'd make a lot more analysis with it. But one of the things that always gets misconstrued as is like, oh, like, if children are alone together, they're just gonna murder each other. But it was, in fact, a commentary on rich British boys. Is this girl riding a bike through a school? It was commentary, the person who wrote it was like a teacher or it dealt with like middle school age, high school age, British elite, upper class boys, and was like, if these kids were left alone to their own devices, they would be complete assholes with no supervision. And this seems like a very good demonstration of how like they're unsupervised, they have everything handed them to in life, and if they think they're above everyone else, so like the consequences for their actions don't like matter. And so, you know, just like beating the crap out of like a student for like, I'm gonna guess it's gonna be probably something super trivial. So they're The person that we just saw getting beat up is now on a rooftop about to do something drastic, and there were classmates speaking, saying that like he wasn't even gonna last a week or 3 days. So I'm wondering if this is like a new student who is in a lower economic status, like maybe a scholarship student or something, because I don't know if they mean 3 days like starting school or lasting like, because it said like wouldn't last a week, so they mean like lasting a week with the red mark or like lasting a week at the school. How brutal is this school? at least in Orange High School Host Club, they're a bunch of snobby people, but like they're not trying to beat you up.
저기야 이민아! 네! 아니 고객님
넌 뭐냐?
배달 왔는데요. 죽어? 지금
Does this girl not know how to read a room? Why is she... It's kind of obvious that paying a dry cleaning bill is not this dude's biggest focus at this moment. Miss don't know your name. Also, is dry cleaning payments negotiable? Like, I know that some countries and some places, like buying groceries, you can negotiate the price. I've never heard of dry cleaning being a negotiating price. Because like I said, in America, you really don't get to like if you're like a yard sale, you can negotiate price. But most places you go, like if you go into a dry cleaner, they're like, okay, it's $30, and you're like 25, and be like, no, that's not how this works. You don't get your clothes back until you pay us in full. And do you get to negotiate on everything, or is this just like a dry cleaning thing? What's going on with that? So if you get an F4 card, which it was pretty easy to surmise, you get jumped by everybody and everything, though. It seems like the guys are mostly just participating in the violence and the girls are just watching for entertainment. So the guy ends up trying to exit the building in a non-healthy manner, and she's able to just grab this dude. This girl must regularly hit the gym, because I mean, what's the average teenage boy weigh? That's gonna be at least like 130 pounds, and she is holding that all up on her own, not even in a great position. The photo of her saving the student from, attempting gets released to the media, and it's opening about how the school actually has a massive bullying problem and is really toxic and really dangerous to people. And it looks like the general public doesn't like the school that much anyways, because it's really just a school for rich kids, and they don't have to even take an entrance exam, which from what I can tell is the equivalent of an ACT or an SAT in America, but like so much worse. Now the school is being executed in the court of public appeal.
말이야. 진짜 그렇게 꽃미남 놈들일까?
They're called the Flower Four? Is that an intimidating thing in Korea, or is it just like because they're pretty? It's like the pretty boys. Look out, the pretty boys might get you. You gotta try a lot harder in America to be scary.
지금 진화되고 있는 겁니까? 기자들 입에서 어떻게 감히 준표 이름이
Yeah, man, why can't you stop the bad publicity of a student nearly killing themselves on campus? What's so hard about this to impress? I'm guessing this is gonna be a K-drama that has multiple villains, because this lady clearly only cares about, like, they go on a limb and say her family name getting mentioned.
좋은 줄 알아요. 무식하기 때문이라고. 한번 미쳐 날뛰기 시작하면 걷잡을 수가 없다고.
She's saying that the people being upset that a school environment is so toxic that students want to harm themselves to get away from it, they're being berserk. What is wrong with this lady?
다니기로 했다?
다니기로 했다! 그래서 특별 장학생으로 받아주신다! 수영하래!
Have her parents not been listening to the news reports of a student trying to jump off a building, and then other people going on, because other people have gone online to be like, oh yeah, my friend like dropped out of school and claimed that it was too hard, but it's really because they got bullying, this is a massive problem, and the parents are just like, oh my goodness, you get to go to Shinhwa Academy, yay! Yay! Okay, so this poor student gets a scholarship to attend a school meant for really rich students where they have no time on their hands, so they just do really ludicrous activities. This is Oran High School Host Club, right? Kim Jendi finds out that she's being awarded a scholarship to go to Shima so that she can swim, and she's been swimming until she graduated middle school. And I've been assuming that she's really poor just because that tends to be the dynamic, and I find that really interesting. Do Korean schools just have swimming pools included in them? Because like in America, only people who live in typically wealthier income areas swim. So if you live in a more urban setting, especially in lower income areas, pools just take they take up space and they require like a lot more work and maintenance and funding. And so the people in those areas typically don't learn to swim. Is just swimming a more important thing in Korean culture that even poorer people have access to it? Or is she not as poor as I'm guessing? Because usually they like to do stories like this where they're having like really rich students. They usually like to have a really major contrast, like in Oran High School Host Club, where like Haruhi is in. I wonder if Haruhi, now I was thinking about it, is actually that poor, or she just looks a lot poorer than she is compared to how rich the high schools are. That's something I'd never considered. So Jeonji gets offered this Fulbright scholarship, and her family's super excited about it, despite the numerous reports that the school is a very toxic environment. And Jeonji says, no, I don't want to go, because like I wouldn't fit in there. And I like where I am right now. Also, I had to save someone from jumping off of a building earlier in case anyone decided to forget about that convenient fact. But her family's like, no! You're going to go to that school! Like, they straight up pin this girl down and gag her so that she can't refuse the scholarship. Fun growing up moments when your family are risking your well-being so that you can attend a school for rich kids. It's like, yeah, guys, I don't want to go to this school because like I wouldn't fit in there, and I had to say something for jumping off a building, so I feel like it's probably just better for my well-being to not go to someplace that's so completely different from the culture and economic status I'm used to be at, and these kids clearly don't value human life. Sweetie, this isn't a democracy. This is a dictatorship. And I will physically drag you to that school. I will chloroform you every night, and when you wake up, you will be in class in your uniform. Do you understand me? We can do this the easy way, or we can do this the hard way. Jesus, Mom. Woo! Our daughter's going to a school. I'm going to endanger her safety.
여자들 학교에다가 돈질한다고 입에 거품 물 땐 언제고? 거야 그 땀에 떡일 때
Hey Mom, do you remember when you said it was bad to be around people who constantly bragged about their wealth? Sweetie, you need to get the picture. If you go to this school, you can go to great colleges and find good jobs or a rich husband, and then we can be the people who get to brag about their wealth. Why don't you care about this family? So Jeonji ends up being forced to go to attend the school where I'm sure she will absolutely experience no bullying whatsoever. Who is this guy? One student straight up arrives by helicopter, and I'm guessing since there was like a half pan around on him, that he's going to be an important. I'm gonna say love interest. But wait, there's the other guy who's gonna be love interest. So maybe he's like the second story love interest. Oh. I'm also noticing that like some of the outfits they're wearing robes. They look like they're attending school for Harry Potter. Is that why it's so exclusive? This is a wizarding school, and they've used magic to like accumulate their wealth, so that's why like only the richest of riches get to be there, because they like have this generational wealth now. That'd be cool. It's probably not the case, but that'd be cool. She gets super mega ultra lost on campus trying to find her way, ends up in the woods, because I too, when trying to find a classroom, would wander into the woods. Like, there's clearly a school building, and she ends up in the woods. While in the woods, she hears this entrancing violin music and follows it, because, you know, that got nothing better to do since you're clearly late for class, and we meet a third boy. I guess this K-drama's gonna have 3 potential romantic interests, though we all know the first person you meet is always the person's gonna be with and fall in love with, but those guys, they put up a valiant effort. Fighting the good fight out there. So our first date, Jondi's not trying to find class, she's looking for a pool, and she meets a hot guy who plays violin for, so maybe the school isn't gonna be as bad as she thinks it'll be. And then she almost gets trampled by a bunch of girls screaming to go find the F4. And of course the way the F4 enters has to be the coolest thing in existence. This is also the moment Jondi finds out that the cute violin boy is also part of the F4, which is a problem because if you remember, the F4 are the biggest boys on campus. Oh no, are you now in love with a bad boy? But now focus on a more pressing issue. The leader of the F4, the alpha male, has a problem with some random students. Excuse me? Okay, so in a previous scene, this one student was talking about how he had just bought in like this item of clothing and had it imported to this country, and the only other person that had bought it was this guy named Junpo, and so I'm guessing that guy is Junpo. And the art, I thought he was talking about like a tie or a watch that I didn't see, or maybe the jacket or something. No, it's this thing, this little like square box that's barely noticeable. He's upset because some other dude is wearing a square box on his collar. Like, that's not even that cool. It's just a black box. It looks like you don't have a sense of fashion. And he pours juice over him, tomato juice, apple cranberry juice, I don't know. So clearly we can see that this potential second love interest is a nice guy. So Jondi, after witnessing this admittedly very strange power play, starts wondering what kind of school her parents had gone into, and then she meets
진짜 Sunny Miranda.
the demon version of Charlie Angels, who inform her, hey, that abusive curly-haired entitled brat is our senpai, so you better not insult him or else. Jondi finds the concept of rich people so revolting she goes to like some stairwell and screams out into the city about how much she hates the F4 and manages to scream that in front of the violin guy. Jondi waited till she was at school to scream about how much she doesn't like the F4 at Shinhwa High School, where the F4 is revered. I anticipate many great life choices being made by this character over the course of this drama. The violin guy's pretty cool about it. He's more just annoyed that he interrupted her nap and then just pieces out, because, you know, if she's gonna get in trouble with Gun Junpo, she's probably destructive and confrontational enough to just do it on her own without him reporting to her. Charlie's demons come back and confront Jondi about why she's eating food from home and not the cafeteria food, to which Jondi replies that it costs $50? They are paying the most expensive tuition in all of Korea, and they had to pay for their food? To attend this school, you have to be able to hemorrhage money daily. What is everyone's net worth here? But not everything sucks. A nice looking girl actually comes up to Jondi and sincerely asks to try her food. Jondi's made a friend, yay! Also, we find out that Jondi fought gangs. Do they mean like gangs or like gangs of students? Did she physically fight them or verbally fight them? Is this girl no karate? Are we gonna get to see her kick some ass later in the show? Oh please, oh please, oh please, let that be happening. Thanks to the great advice of her friend who told her that she physically took on gangs, Jondi decides that from now on when she comes to school, she is going to actively start as many fights as she can with the F4. I'm sure this will end well.
받아주세요.
Okay, this guy's just an asshole. And then after he throws the cake in the girl's face, John Dee really gives it to him. Lets him know how terrible a person he is. Never has someone been read their rights so much since Martin Luther nailing his 99 grievances against the Catholic Church. Hey, you suck. Who is she?
야!
But then it's all gonna come crashing down because her best friend just dropped ice cream on the shoe of Gunjin-po. She immediately apologizes, obviously, and he decides to be a punk about it and is like, these shoes were handcrafted from Florence, Italy, and you don't have as much money as me, so you can't afford to buy my new stuff. And the best friend's just trying not to get crucified and get a red card, so she offers to do whatever it takes to make everything better. And his solution is...
핥아.
Yeah, this guy sucks. Like, dude, it's just a little ice cream. I don't really remember the other guys' names, so it doesn't really seem fair to call this guy by his name. So we're just gonna call him Poodle, because he has curly hair. So the F4 go back and hang out at their super cool guy hangout place. But Poodle's having a really hard time with the fact that for the first time in his life, his actions have had consequences. So his friends go and try to talk to him. Hey man, you're kind of freaking everybody out with how intensely you keep throwing darts at the board. Leave me alone. I'm spending all this time thinking about how to destroy some poor girl who for the first time has stood up to me after I was being a complete ass. Dude, why don't you do what we've always been doing and just put a red card in a locker so everyone will relentlessly bully her and physically assault her to the point where she either quits school or jumps off a building? You are the best person I know, man! So the next day, John Dee approaches their locker and there are people waiting to look at it. And I've just gotta say, I know that she does not know what is happening or what's going to happen, but if I were to approach my locker at a school with a bunch of rich students that I know have a propensity for bullying and pulling pranks, especially on people who they consider below them, which they would consider me, and they're all just waiting in anticipation for me to open my locker and staring at me, I would simply not open my locker. R.I.P. to John Dee, but I'm different. The first part of her hazing takes place when she goes to class and her desk is missing in the most juvenile action ever. She tries to retrieve her notebook, but they have it unofficially and pulling away. And generally, as a rule of thumb and life lesson to anyone, if you're trying to grab something and it keeps getting pulled away, that is just you being not so discreetly lured into a trap, and absolutely do not chase after it throughout the entire building. They've also vandalized her desk, which doesn't completely make sense because that desk is school property, so they're just vandalizing school property. But are like desks assigned in rich Korean schools and like you're personally responsible for that one desk and you must not let anything happen to that desk? Because like in public school, if someone vandalized somebody's desk, then they would try to find that person because they just damaged school property that they're gonna have to pay for. And then the kids get around her and just pelt her with a bunch of eggs, and she thinks about how her dad told her to take really good care of the fabric and how proud he was that she had gone into the school and got to wear these nice clothes, and he was spending literally hours ironing it nicely so that she could have nice clothing and be like the rest of them. I guess girls have different assault tactics that they use, since no one seems to be, at least at this point, directly physically assaulting her and preferring to do like throwing eggs and trying to demean the person and verbally tearing them down. And her best friend runs away instead of sticking up for her, though I can understand how you may not want to stand up to a crowd of people, but it really just shows John Dee that at the end of the day, it's just her and her alone at the school. Poodle is getting the footage of her being pelted with eggs and humiliated and crying streamed right to his office. And this K-drama looks like it was filmed in a bit of an, like maybe I'd say early 2000s. So again, these people are super rich. And he decides that everything will be over when she comes and apologizes to him. And John Dee's coping the way we all want to cope with things. Screaming in a stairwell over the city. And then we find out Violin Guy is a slightly lesser asshole than the rest of them because he comes and brushes off a little bit of flour with his handkerchief after she tells him how to make pancakes. And then she finds that Poodle has moved on to phase 2 of his humiliation tactic and thrown trash into her pool. Do these students like face no consequences for messing with school property? And then we move on to phase 3 where it looks like 3 guys are gonna beat her up. So I guess they do beat up female students in this school. And then the episode ends on a cliffhanger as 3 boys go to mug John D. And that was the end of episode 1 of Boys Wear Flowers, which is looking to be more just Oran High School Host Club, but more violent. And less flowers. We'll see what happens in episode 2. I thought that the person that she saved from jumping off the building would be coming back into play, but we haven't seen him all episode, so I wonder if he's going to resurface later on. I definitely feel like the violent guy is a romantic interest, mainly because John D is very clearly having feelings for him, and I hope that Poodle gets beat up by her again.